Welcome to my first solo episode of Tom Talks Training. Today I'm going to be doing a Q&A of questions submitted by you guys on YouTube and my Instagram. This is going to be all fitness and business related. You can find out a bit more about what I do specifically to get in shape, my business journey and more. Let's get into it with your first question. So one of the first ones from @daynapson3577 was, how did I start my own business and did I work anywhere first? So yes, I did work somewhere first. My first job in the fitness industry was actually a leisure attendant, basically a glorified towel folder. We've all got to start somewhere, and I actually used to pretend like I had a much higher role. I'd be showing people around the gym, showing exercises and things like that. But in reality, I was just a towel folder. But they always say that you should do the job of the job you want, not the job you have, and then hopefully you'll be allocated that job one day. So I would do that, and then eventually I managed to upgrade myself to actually being a gym instructor, which is basically where you show people around the gym, working in a commercial gym. From there, I started freelance PTing as well, so I'd take my own clients on. I was doing it initially from home, so I was traveling to clients' houses to do that. Which is pretty tough, especially in the early hours of the morning and winter in the UK. But that's really where you learn what you're made of. And then I carried on freelancing, eventually dropped my gym hours at the gym and just started being just a PT, still out of a commercial gym. Set myself a goal of I want to open my own facility by the age of 30. Realized I was approaching 30 fast with little to no progress of actually opening my own facility. So first thing is look at premises, look at costs, and through that process of just looking at premises without even the intention of opening one, I saw one where a gym had failed. In fact, 2 or 3 previous gyms had failed in that location, which should really have been an indicator for how hard it was going to be to make a success. But the space was kitted out half for a gym already. That made it a little bit easier to enter into and start a business there. So me and another guy started this business. Unfortunately, it didn't work out with him. We weren't quite aligned. There was a little bit of drama there. But anyway, it worked out well and we're good friends now. So I carried on after the first couple of months just running the business on my own, which I called Synergy Health and Performance, which is the same business I still run now, but out of a different premises. And then I carried on personal training throughout all that. And then during 2020, I started a YouTube channel and started posting more regularly. So I'm still very new to YouTube, maybe even more 2021. But since then, I've been committing more of my time towards YouTube and doing the online training, which allows me to have unlimited creative freedom, which I love. Still personal training, still running the studio. I'm a father of 2 kids and a husband, and I'm juggling a lot of hats right now. So it's tough to balance. But that's where I'm at. What do I eat to stay fit? From @Keto Maintenance, which is a fitting name for that question. So if I had a food sponsor, I would say it would have to be Icelandic skier yogurt. I do not have a food sponsor, but it has 10 grams of protein per 100 grams and not that many calories. It's pretty easy for me to eat 250 grams. So I can get 25 grams of protein just from the yogurt in the morning without even having to add any whey protein. Usually I will top it up with another 20 grams of whey protein, give me 45 grams of protein from a breakfast, maybe adding some blueberries in there. So that's my superfood, if you like. Protein wise, I tend to get it from yogurt, whey protein, chicken, eggs, fish, usually eggs for lunch for me. And I don't mind having lean beef. I'm happy with red meats as long as they're good quality. Carbs wise, I'm a sucker for cereal. That is my nemesis for sure. Tend to have a lot of oats. I'm not afraid of having bread, but generally I'll try and find some soy-free bread, no soy flour. And I'll try and get it from a local Polish bakery, which just seems to make me a bit less bloated and it's got less preservatives in it. I don't really drink, but if I do drink, I'll probably have a dark rum and ginger ale. But to be honest, I'm the kind of person that would have one drink and happily stop. So alcohol's never really been something I've had to moderate. let's move on to the next one. When did I start working out? I always used to love looking through the Argos magazines from an early age at the fitness section. So I did buy a couple of things on there and probably working out at home at around 15, and then 16 joined a gym. And I reckon I've been to the gym almost every week for my whole life. I'm 33 right now, since the age of 16. So if anyone's looking to get in shape and they think it's taken a while, it just does take a while, and you don't have to rush it. I say this in the classes when people come in. We're not trying to get you in shape in that hour. We're just trying to work towards getting you in shape. So if you join a new class or start a new exercise routine, you don't have to go too hard. A bit like if you're trying to get flexible, you go to a yoga class. You're not trying to get flexible in that yoga class. You're trying to work towards your flexibility. So I do recommend just taking the long, consistent approach, and then that'll add up to good results over time. Next one from @its.vara. If working out 4 times a week, what muscles should I train? I like this question. This is something I think quite a lot about. But what I would say is my personal philosophy on training would be to train movement, not muscles. So I think if you're thinking about individual muscles, there's so many muscles throughout the body, and you could isolate them or try and isolate them. But really, I'd think more global, because if you're trying to do, let's say, a bicep and tricep day, you don't really need an hour for that. So train movements, not muscles. So what would that look like? So I'm going to do, if I was doing 4 times, an upper, lower split routine. So day 1, I'd think horizontal push-pull. Day 2, I might think anterior chain legs. So that might be squats and some abs. Day 3, I do vertical push-pull, so that would be my shoulder press and any pull-up or lat pull-down movement. And day 4, I do my posterior chain legs with some accessories, so that might be deadlifts, maybe lunges as well. Now you can add your biceps or triceps probably into either of the upper days. Maybe you might want to do horizontal push-pull and biceps on day 1 and vertical push-pull and triceps on the day 3. If I was only to work out 3 times a week, though, I wouldn't take that approach. I'd probably take more of a full body approach every single session. That doesn't mean doing the same exercises, but it mean hitting upper and lower body within the same session for all 3 of them. But I'd still probably only hit like the horizontal pressing movements on one day and the vertical pressing movements on the other, and maybe do like an accessories arm and a few straight arm exercises on the 3rd day. Anyway, let's move on from that. I'm waffling. How do you manage success? Was it strange? Is it stressful? Does it take a lot of planning? And that's from, again, at daynapsu3577. How do I manage success? I am flattered that you'd consider me successful enough that it's difficult to manage. Definitely managing workload is challenging. What I would say is, I'm not advising this, but generally, I just continually raise the bar. And I think this is quite a common trait of anyone that's trying to strive to grow a business, is that you might think that you'll be happy at, I don't know, let's say opening my own gym. So initially the bar was, I'd love to open my own gym facility. I've done that, but now my goals have changed. And it's not that I'm not happy with running my own gym facility. It's great. I love it. I wouldn't want to work anywhere else, but you start thinking, okay, well, I'd like an online business to go with it. And then once you've got your online business, you think, okay, well, I'd like to diversify to have a members area off platform. So generally, I just keep raising the bar. So success, you just look at the next horizon. I try to be conscious of the wins along the way. This is partly due to advice I've heard, but also I see the importance of it. So if you're always looking at the next thing, you've got a risk of never really having any fulfillment in what you do. So I do look at celebrating the mini wins. So for example, my video editor, who decided that every milestone, I'll take him out and we'll do something. So our first small milestone of just 10,000 subscribers, I took him out to a local Tex-Mex and we had a meal there, and I'll pay for that. And then it's someone else to share it with. So we look forward, we're going to do a weekend away. When we hit 100,000, he can choose where he wants to go. And it's just, for me, it's a thank you to him for the effort he's putting along the way. And for me, it's just a good chance to consciously celebrate the wins along the way. And as far as, is it stressful? yes, running the studio, especially the gym, is very stressful, especially during 2019, 2021. But generally, it's been very stressful. I could go into a whole video on this and the process of running the gym and the ups and downs, but basically we've had floods, fire, potentially arson as well from other businesses in the area. We're going to open on a Monday after being locked down for a long time. And on the Friday before we opened, we actually lost our premises. We were a sublet, and the person we were subletting off hadn't paid their rent, so that all fell through. And we temporarily relocated the whole gym and all the equipment into a hall, which was not big enough for us. We crammed everyone in and did our best and tried to maintain the members as best we could. Whilst I desperately looked for a permanent location to move the business, at this point we'd put 5 or 6 years into it, so to let it go was going to be difficult. We've had staff issues. I could keep going on, but yes, it's been very stressful. The YouTube side of things, I would say, is not actually as stressful. It is all consuming and it does take a lot of work and planning, but I definitely wouldn't put it on the same level as running a physical business, which has huge overheads, big expenses, and more people. I think people are the best thing about running a physical business, the fact that you get to interact with people, but they are also the hardest thing. Let's move on. What do I think of Knees Over Toes Guy? So for those of you who don't know, Knees Over Toes Guy is, I can't remember what his name is, but it's basically a YouTube channel of a guy that specializes in knee rehabilitation. What I would say is I don't think he's presenting anything new or revolutionary. What I would say is he is doing a great job at teaching already existing beneficial prehab exercises. Prehab is rehab before you need it for common injuries. In the UK, if you go to a physiotherapist, 90% of the time, I say that because I'm sure there's 10% of you out there that are great physiotherapists, but from my experience, 90% of the physiotherapists will give you the same 3 or 4 exercises regardless of the problem. So if you go for a knee injury, regardless of what you turned up for, they'll give you 3 or 4 exercises on a piece of paper, which they've barely shown you how to do, and there's no accountability to doing them. Now, the criticism is not the physios. I know a lot of the time they're only allocated, especially the NHS, a certain amount of time, so they're just restricted on what they can do for you. But it does mean that people like the Knees Over Toes guy, who can have more in detailed videos and demonstrations of how to do stuff, can sometimes be as beneficial, if not more beneficial, than just a quick visit to a physio that doesn't have time to see you. So I do think he's doing a great job. I do think he's helping people, but I don't actually think it's revolutionary. There's no secrets there. It's just prehab taught well. Okay, let's move on. From @Peter Laures. Are you ever too old to train? Well, the simple answer is no. But what I would say is your training is going to change over time. So you're going to modify your activities to any niggles or injuries you've picked up over the years. And you will. Everyone I've met over the age of 30 has got some pre-existing injury, niggle, or something that you have to consider with your training. I played American football for 6 years. And before that, I was doing gymnastics. So I feel like I wore my body out pretty early. And I have to modify loads of things myself to stay in shape. But I still work out 5 times a week, or maybe even 6 times a week. Not long sessions, but I'll do a bit. But even for me, as a personal trainer, I'll modify a lot. I'll modify a lot of things for my wrists. I dislocated my elbow playing American football, so it's prone to inflammation. So you'll see in some of my YouTube videos, I'll wear a elbow support, and that just keeps it warmer and means I can do a larger volume of videos without it inflaming. So yes, as you get older, you're gonna have to focus more on your recovery. I would say you probably need more days off. So I do shorter sessions and probably have more days off than I used to. I'll often take 2 days off in a row, whereas before I probably wouldn't have done that. You probably have to focus a bit more on your sleep. I've added in foam rolling to improve my mobility. That really helped because I was getting tight. I do more stretching than I used to do, and I probably focus more heavily on my nutrition because I am more prone to gaining weight than I used to be. So yes, you can always train, but you will have to consider certain things as you age. And you should always train, I think. Next, we've got from at Inasakamiego. That's definitely not what it says, but what's the best way to structure your workouts per week, per month, per year? So this is obviously going to be highly dependable on who you are, but what I would say is weekly, decide how many workouts you're going to do a week and where are you going to put your rest days as one structure. Monthly, I like to follow a rep range periodization. So that means basically having phases for different emphasis throughout the month. So that's when I'm in routine. So if I'm in a nice routine, so let's say work's consistent, there's not too much going on, I will follow a periodized rep scheme. So that means on week 1, I'll do high reps, moderate weight. And then as the weeks go through, I'll drop the rep range to lower rep ranges and I'll increase the weight until I get to week 3, where I might go for a 3 rep max potentially, or at least a heavy 3 rep set. And then on week 4, if I'm being disciplined, I'll take a deload week where I usually do some technique work, like maybe some pause reps, some banded stuff, or even just change the movement. Let's say if I've been working on a barbell flat bench press on week 4, I might even just switch it over to dumbbells with 6 to 8 reps for a little bit of a change. And then annually, per year, how do I structure my workouts? For me personally, I can tell you what I do. It would be depending on what you want to achieve, but for me, I tend to gain muscle and strength in the winter. Makes sense because my calories are higher in the winter, especially in the UK. I tend to lean up pre-summer. Now that's not just to get in shape for the summer, it's actually to stop my weight creeping over time. So it's almost a check. I don't completely blow. I'm not bulking through the winter, but I will gain maybe 2 kilos over the winter. And then I just make sure that 2 kilos doesn't keep creeping up by maybe dropping it back down 1.5 kilos pre-summer. Throughout the summer is where I might put some events in, maybe some fitness challenges. In 2023, I did an Olympic triathlon with a sea swim, a big bike ride on Anglesey, if you know where Anglesey is in the UK. So I'll do that. So it's good to be light. And then realistically, I'm not going to gain strength whilst I'm focusing on doing more cardio over the summer. So my goal is to maintain my strength whilst enjoying being a physical person. So that means rock climbing, getting out, hiking. So I just enjoy my physical abilities through the summer, and then I sort of build myself in the winter. I've heard Ross Edgley talk about this. It's almost called, he calls it wintering. So you're going to winter yourself, basically put your body through the training in the winter, so you can perform through the summer, I guess. Okay, let's move on. Do I have any favorite books or media for inspiration? I have actually read a lot of books, but I tend to read a lot of travel books, so it's not going to be much to do with health or fitness, but 2 books that have been influential for me. One is A Survival Guide for Life by Bear Grylls. Now, that's not actually a survival book. It's more of a life philosophy. I'd call it a priorities book. So it really helped me to set what are my priorities in life and help make me aim towards those rather than what you might think your priorities are. So check that out, A Survival Guide for Life. It's got a load of Bible passages in there, and it also mixes a lot of Winston Churchill quotes in. So personally, I think if you're looking to improve your life, a mix of Bible passages and Winston Churchill quotes can't go too far wrong. And the other book, from a business perspective, is The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. Now, this is a pretty heavy book, and The 4-Hour Work Week is a bit of a clickbaity title. We're obviously not necessarily striving for a 4-hour work week, but it is a great book for helping you to understand the value of your time and encourage you to outsource areas that either you're not an expert in or that could free your time up to do something else. Okay, media-wise, now I definitely have a lot of media. I'm a big podcast fan. I listen to a podcast while I'm working out. I listen to a podcast while I'm driving, walking, cycling, when I was doing my cycle training. So for me to de-stress, I love the Theo Von podcast, a great men's mental health podcast as well. For fitness and human psychology. Chris Williamson, the podcast called Modern Wisdom is fantastic. A fitness and business related podcast. Mike Thurston has one called First Things First. I realize a lot of people are not a big fan of Mike Thurston, but I think he seems like a really nice guy, and I don't agree with all of the guests he has on. I definitely don't agree with all they say and discuss, but you shouldn't just follow people that you agree with everything. So if you don't like something, you don't have to watch it. I just don't watch those episodes, and I think more people should just realize that if they don't like something, you don't have to just cancel someone. You can just skip the bits you don't like. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I like the Lift, Run, Shoot series by Cameron Haynes. Again, maybe a controversial one because he's a hunter. If you're a vegan, you might not like the hunting, but it's a great series. I love it. It's just something I like. I'm not saying you have to like it. One that does not have a big following actually yet, I'm sure it will, is Modern Mind by Fergus Crawley. One of the trainers at my gym put me onto him. I think he's only got 2,000 subscribers on his podcast. So if you see this, go over there, have a look. Modern Mind, Fergus Crawley. He's not too far away from Chester, so hopefully I'll collab with him one day. But it's a great hybrid athlete podcast. Shares a lot of my interests, so check that out. And then one more. This is good for me. I listen to this usually on a Sunday morning, Saturday morning. The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. Stoic philosophy, things to help prioritize and set you in the right frame of mind for the day. All right, let's move on. How to maintain gyms from PT at the gym by doing home workouts only. How to maintain your gyms from personal training at the gym by only doing home workouts. Is 30 minutes a day enough? Oh, this is by Lucy Loves Unicorns, who I believe is not called that, as I've spoken to her on YouTube comments before. So sounds like she is having had PT at the gym. She wants to maintain those strength gains, but work out at home. Can she do 30 minutes? Yes, I'd say you definitely can. What matters is just your total weekly volume. That's more important than your workout length. So if you're having one PT a week and only training once or twice, then you're only doing 2-3 hours a week anyway. You could definitely do that at home. Even if you split it into 4 30-minute sessions at home, as long as you've got some equipment at home, I would say that if you haven't got a good selection of dumbbells and you were doing really well in the gym at progressing your strength, then yes, that might limit you. So you can work out from home. You could get the same results as you could at the gym. There's nothing special about just because you're at the gym doesn't mean you're going to get in shape. What you do in the gym gets you in shape, and you can do just as well at home with a couple of pairs of dumbbells, or if you're into calisthenics, then just a bar and your body weight. So it's all relative to what you're used to, but you probably do need a weight selection. 30 minutes is definitely enough if you do it frequently. Next one. Is there an optimal timing or combination of macros throughout the day? By @Jane Bocock 7611. I think Jane's a bit of an OG subscriber. I recognize that. So thanks, Jane, for your comments throughout YouTube. But is there an optimal timing or combination of macros throughout the day? There's more optimal timings for performance, but I wouldn't say there's an optimal timing for general health. So if you are looking to regularly compete in a sport, then 20 minutes post-workout, you might want to replenish your carbs when your muscles are most susceptible to taking those carbohydrates in and replenish it. But if you're not looking to compete again and play a game of football or whatever you're doing the next day, then it doesn't really matter whether you have your carbs post-workout or not, because you're not looking to perform again straight away in a competitive setting. I'd say spreading your protein servings out evenly throughout the day does seem like the most optimal approach for muscle development. There's plenty of reasons, though, that you might want to go for a less than optimal spread of macros for performance. So for health reasons, I know a lot of people these days are having gut problems, IBS and stuff, so you might want to try something like intermittent fasting, which could be good for your insulin sensitivity, giving your gut bacteria a rest and helping it replenish. So longer fasted periods, I would say, so the 16-8, which is basically intermittent fasting, you have 8 hours in which you eat all of your food and then 16 hours where you're fasted, ideally using the same schedule each day. I'd say that's good for health if it works for you, but it's not going to be good if you're in competitive sport, in my opinion. I tried it whilst I was playing American football and I just couldn't recover. I was too, especially if I'd had a game, it just was not good for me. But if you're just in an office job and you're looking to be healthy, try that. One thing I'd say in quantity is try and hit your protein requirements. 1 gram per pound of your target body weight per day would be optimal for muscle growth. That's about 2 grams per kilo. Now, that's not of body weight. So if you're overweight, that number is going to overestimate. So if you pick a realistic target, so if I'm 82 kilos, if my target body weight was 80 kilos, I'm going to use that. I'm not going to use the 82. But so if you're very overweight, do not use that measure. Think about what's a realistic target. You could use your BMI to calculate what a realistic weight for you might be and do the 1 gram per pound of body weight for your target body weight. Then as far as carbs and fats goes, I think that's down to personal preference. Some people like a high fat diet, some people like a high carb diet. They're just going to make up the rest of your calories throughout the day, and the ratio is just up to preference. And I think this is the final one. How did I manage to balance study and life to get to where I am today? So when I was doing my degree in sport and exercise science, I wasn't doing YouTube. I wasn't doing the gym. I wasn't personal training. I actually did my qualifications through that time. So I got myself qualified and educated throughout that time. I somewhat regret going to university. I think I would have been better off just going straight into work and doing other qualifications related to fitness. But hindsight's 2020. You don't know that until you do it. So I would have always regretted not going to university as well, but looking back, I definitely didn't need to. And if my kids don't want to go to university, I wouldn't push them to do it unless they were looking for a vocational course like being a doctor. And how do I balance my family life? To be honest, I'm not being great at balancing my work-family life. Being self-employed, I think a lot of people struggle with that. I live in a terrace house, which is fairly small for the amount of people living in it. There's no office. I'm currently in the living room, and thankfully my wife and my baby are being very kind and not making too much noise for this episode in the other room. So I'm not great. One day I'd like to separate my work and life, but obviously that's a luxury. So I'm working on that right now, managing to separate out my work time from my home life. I do have some tactics to balance work and family. One thing I do is I do try and switch my phone over to airplane mode at about 7 in the evening, so I can't get any calls, I don't see any notifications, and I try not to check it again before I go to bed. I just put my alarm on and then keep it on airplane mode until the morning. I put time in the diary to see my wife, so we do a coffee date on a Wednesday morning, every Wednesday. It's in the diary, so I just treat it like any other meeting. I'm not going to book over it, it's just in there solid. I'm not going to shuffle it around, it stays. So I work my work around that. So at least we get one morning a week where we have some dedicated time. And one funny thing I do is when I walk home, if I walk through the door at the end of the day and I walk in and the kids are going to run up and want some attention, rightfully so, and Tasha's probably cooking, wants some help, then I've got emails that I haven't answered yet because I've probably just left a session. I've got clients I need to message back about the next day. So I actually stand outside my house and make sure that I do my email, send any messages. So when I walk through the door, I'm not looking at my phone because I don't want my kids to think the phone is more important than them. So even if it's raining, sometimes I'll stand in our tiny little porch area and answer emails and things, making sure that's done. Turn my phone onto airplane mode before I walk through the door. So that's about it for today. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to see more like this, then let me know in the comments below what kind of content you'd like to see, and I'll see you again soon.